Guest today is Ann Marie Lipinski, a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, now the curator of the Nieman Foundation for Journalism. And I'm going to ask her what she thinks the future of journalism looks like in a post-COVID world.
Journalism has, for a long time now, particularly in the United States, has had a geography problem. The vast majority of, a sizable majority of journalists have been on the coasts, in big cities, and you see big swaths of the country that are underrepresented. And so one of the things that happened when the pandemic hit and the quarantines began is that you saw a lot of people, not just in this industry, but elsewhere, relocating to other parts of the country. And I think a benefit of that has been that we discovered you can do your journalism in a lot of different places. At the same time, this whole notion of work from home, while it's been demonstrably really good for a lot of people, I do think we need to be very cautious and pay a lot of attention to what's happening in particular for women. While the flexibility it's created has been really good for women, I think it's also created an imbalance in terms of the burden of who's responsible for what's happening at home. And newsrooms are going to have to be very, very mindful of that.
Is this moment having an impact on how we do news, how we do journalism?
The piece that journalism is really struggling now to figure out and will be working on for a long time is the very essence of how we report. This notion of boots on the ground, right, that you're out in the field, has been really compromised during the pandemic. And you see journalists working very creatively and trying to sort out what a reporting world looks like if you cannot always be there. One of the things that I've really come to love about the moment is we've stopped paying attention to the kind of pretty packaging that has traditionally surrounded so much of journalism. I love being in people's living rooms, listening to the reporters and to their subjects, or seeing a child walk through. That used to be a reason to stop don't roll the tape, At the same time, so much great journalism really depends on just being there, on getting to the point in a story and with a subject where you kind of disappeared into the background and they barely know that you are there. What are we going to do? How are we going to recapture those moments if we are not there? How do we marry those two things and potentially come up with a very new way of presenting the news, something that takes the best of both of these impulses.
The business of news was already in flux before COVID. What does COVID do to that change, to that flux?
We knew the kind of end of advertising was coming, that it was nigh, but the almost complete breakdown of that model is the moment we're at. And COVID-19 certainly hurried those end days. We are hastening the complete breakdown of what has been the, kind of modern traditional model, which is we sell you advertising and that advertising pays for us to promulgate the news report. We are on a quicker pace now to transition for some organizations, healthy organizations, to transition to a much more reader-supported, listener-supported, viewer-supported model. The big organizations will probably be fine. Smaller organizations, particularly local news in smaller communities, is going to have a very, very, very hard time.
And what do you think has been the impact on me, the consumer of news?
I think this is a big reckoning for consumers. How much does this matter to you? Do you care about having fact-based, credible, professionally reported journalism in your community? If you do, you have to wrap your mind around the fact that you have to pay for it. If consumers can't get there in sufficient numbers, we will continue to see the die-off. So just as it's a reckoning for journalists, it's a reckoning for the consumers of journalism, and really, if I can be so bold as to say, for democracy. The whole idea is that, the people are sovereign, but in order to be effectively sovereign, you must be informed. We continue to equate the need for news and information to our very survival. And while it may not be, our physical survival, it is democracy's survival. And without it, who are we?